Hello everybody, Mr. Avematic here, your MBL analyst, and today I have a guest on my segment, Mr. Juan Marvel.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to all you MBL fans. Like you haven't heard me enough for the weeks that are about to come, I'm here again. Hi.
And today we're going to be doing, instead of a particular list of plays of the week, we thought we'd just go over both playoff games and kind of dissect them in depth. I know with the weekly recap, it was more about the statistics. This segment is going to be more about each play and what they meant to the match overall. So starting off, we're going to go over Team We Disney and Team Drinking Birds. What are your thoughts on
Uh, my thoughts for this match were the fact that I don't really think there was a general play that stood out for me. I just really admired when during towards the mid game they just stuck to their guns and kept on and did their priority targets. Like when when they just downed one side of Team Drinking Birds down to the Mega Venusaur, and then they just said, okay, we're going to leave the Mega Venusaur by itself and we're going to focus on the other side now. Especially when the Gothorita was on the field, especially when they try to work themselves back off of the Hurricane Mist going into the Trick Room. That, I think, was a big turning point of the match towards Team Drinking Birds, but We Disney took great control of just playing out their terms, stalling out the Trick Room, and just making sure that they were able to properly address the mons that they were about to face, with preserving mons or just like we saw, focusing that one side, leaving the Mega Venusaur alone so that they can deal with the threat later.
Yeah, I agree. I think that overall, Drinking Birds kept pressure on We Disney. They certainly didn't let We Disney do what they wanted throughout the whole match. Aside from the match just being overall a very haxy game on both ends, you had
Yeah.
both teams trying to execute their plays, but you've got hurricane misses, you got sleep powder misses, you've got hurricane hits and confusions, you've got just weird crucial timing on both ends. So it was cool that Drinking Birds was able to keep composure for as long as they did, and they didn't let We Disney's strategy, or strategies rather, waver. It didn't waver their ability to play the game.
Yeah.
And
I would
Oh, you go ahead.
I would really like to just highlight that it was really cool to see the Ambipom flaying into the King's with the King's Rock into the Gothorita, but it was the fact that it did get the flinch, but then the next following turn the Hurricane Miss happened and the Trick Room still got off. If the Trick Room wouldn't have been able to get off safely, that would have been a completely different match. I felt like for Team with Disney.
Definitely be talking about it a little bit differently. And another thing with We Disney, their trade picks really helped them this week. Like, I feel like
Agreed.
with Drinking Birds, their trade picks, they didn't help as much, despite the fact that one of them was aimed to help them win against We Disney and Electros. That was for threats like Gyarados and such. But, We Disney was like, well, we beat them with Gyarados last time. Why would we bring Gyarados again? Despite Gyarados being a very good Pokemon in this situation, it's a little too obvious. So they made a good play there by not bringing it into the battle. Just Skydrop. There's so many Skydrops from Team We Disney, and that
the move Skydrop, I think, like just this whole league this season has been very important, and it's important use in it. Just like seeing from other teams as a Cyberbaz, I know they did it a bunch of times. We Disney did it a bunch of times as well. Just having the ability to remove a mom from play for one turn just is crucial in a double format like this.
And it makes it so much better for Team We Disney because No Guard is such an amazing ability under these circumstances. Because it not only does it remove that Pokemon from the field for a turn, that Pokemon not be there next turn because Machamp Dynamic Punches, Ice Punches, Stone Edge, it does whatever it wants to while that Pokemon's in the air. Like, every time that happens...
It's a great combination.
Every time that happens, I just imagine... what's happening? Is the Pokemon holding on? Is it just like some kind of like cruel like holding in place in the air? No, but like that strategy it definitely had its moments where it shined, and it did have its moments where it was kind of dull, where it was used more in desperation.
Mm-hmm.
And it also had moments where it's like, well, you could have done a little bit more with that. Like,
Yeah.
you see in the We Disney video, Duncan and Shofu talking about, well, we can just Z move into the sky drop spot and get our Z move off, and that would have put them in a bit of a better situation than what they were. But you know, it like Skydrop is such a move where you have to know what you're gonna do with it, and if you don't know what you're gonna do with it, if you're just taking a Pokemon off the field, then you need to have some kind of alternative focus on something while that Pokemon's being abused in the air, I guess.
Definitely. Definitely. And again, it is just hilarious to see and just interesting to see the mechanic work like that.
Yeah. I guess one more thing that Drinking Birds did was when that Trick Room went off. I don't know. Well, this isn't necessarily a good thing, but like they set up their own momentum with Trick Room, and they attacked. They got damage off on Wii Disney, but I couldn't help but feel like they didn't quite know how to control their own Trick Room.
I feel like for that reasoning is that the Gothorita would spend the first 2 turns of that Trick Room making sure that the Mega Venusaur was getting free health, and then you just have one Mon just sitting there being the cleric, while Mega Venusaur was in front of a Magmortar and Tornadus Incarnate. Even the Sludgemon will do a lot, but I'm not me personally, I haven't seen Drinking Bird's side, but I'm not sure what other move they would have had to hit those 2 Mons besides Sludge Bomb. And even though they were very healthy, and I just don't feel like you said they used those Trick Room turns well, because continuing on from that point, they were just again trying to lock down the other side with just only the Mega Venusaur, while Gothorita was just sitting there.
Yeah. I said that was the last thing, but I guess one little thing I noticed was their use of Lando T was pretty cool. Special Lando T kind of threw people for a loop. The idea was to, it wasn't to be stuck into certain moves. It was trying to expand its coverage. But yeah, that's about it for like a more in-depth play-by-play for those 2 teams. Obviously, like you said earlier, Team Disney ended up winning the match due to the right circumstances. But let's go to Team Not Scald and Team Jamie. This battle here, I feel for the players involved because as you know, DCs were afoot that night whenever they recorded it. But
discussing with Harvey yesterday, there was about 3 DCs in total that they had to recreate. 2 recreations, but 3 DCs from the very beginning of the match. So it was just, whew.
Yeah.
It was for Team Jamie itself. They were troopers in just making sure they were in those 2.5 hours to be able to battle.
Because there's a big time zone difference between East Coast America and the UK, and like you may think that those DCs and that time, you would think that it's not that big a factor, because like you said, there were 2 recreations of the match, so it was just literally clicking the same moves and things of that nature. But mentally, it wears on you because you got to think, like, half of that battle had to be recreated, the other half still had to be played. So you're not in your right mind for the second half, even though you just recreated the first half. It's not it really wears on you. And
yeah, definitely.
I think it really showed. I'm not gonna lie. I think it kind of showed when they finally got the match going again. It really showed, on Team Jamie's part.
Yeah, I feel like that the Team Jamie that we saw throughout the whole season and the Team Jamie we saw for the playoffs was not as crisp and as in sync as we've been seeing, and just I would say they didn't make questionable plays. They just really made. I don't know how to describe it in terms of the fact that they weren't the most optimal.
Yeah,
they weren't the most optimal against Team Not Skull. And like and also another thing to contribute, when you played half the match already and you're recreating, you technically have more time with the match, because you're just breezing through the plays instead of taking time and doing them like you were doing it in an actual game. So you have so much more time to do the later half of the game than you originally did. So I just feel like the extra time that they could have had as well, they used it to their extent, but I just felt like they weren't optimal, especially with, like, I'm just rewatching right now, the Celesteela being that sub-siege set. They just couldn't handle that.
They couldn't handle it, yeah.
Once the toxic spikes are up, it was just literally there.
Definitely. And, you know, another thing is, I remember the play where Team Jamie Z converted into Ghost type. Usually Z converting or Z omni boosting is beneficial, but I don't think it was it wasn't very beneficial there. It was, I don't want to say scare tactic, because I don't think that's what it was. I think it was more like, we're in a hole, you know, let's dig ourselves out the hole, kind of break even again, sway momentum back in our favor. But yeah, things like that where Team Scald, and that's another thing. I think, you know, both sides, of course, they kept their composure despite being under those circumstances. But actually watching Joey and MV be in those circumstances, they keep their composure. They're like, okay, this is happening, you know. Let's figure this out, or, you know, let's just initiate what we have planned. Because you think about Team Jamie, they've used that Porygon Z so much throughout the season. So it's you know, it's kind of expected what's gonna happen.
Yeah, it's a known bring, and I just have to commend definitely Not Scald for sticking to their guns in terms of the Arcanine snarling, because usually when you have it, like the last two mons, I believe, were not Darmanitan, it was Typhlosion and Superior, right?
Yeah.
Typhlosion, Superior, and Mega Blastoise, and Team Not Skull was just stuck to it and just snarling away, making sure that Typhlosion did nothing in the end, even though you're risking a potential just one shot. Yeah, and that was just amazing to see, because they knew what their win cons were, and especially with the toxic spikes up, that as we were talking about yesterday in the weekly recap, the Celesteela could have stayed there literally forever until they died from toxic, because Subseed is literally Jesus.
Yeah, definitely. Subseed is deadly under. You have the right setup around it, and yeah, I agree with the snarl play. You know, Typhlosion, that's a big problem. Even Arcanine, like, you have to put into perspective when a Pokemon's, I guess, their main attributes, their best abilities are put on display in certain situations. Superior is not known for its special attack off rip, but with the contrary Leaf Storm, that's where the problem comes in. Typhlosion already has great special attack, you know, without any boosts. So to have that and then come off the heels of a full power eruption, I think that's definitely a more dangerous threat than, oh, I'm snarling, so I'm giving the Superior +1, you know. But it's better than it Leaf Storm, or having Leaf Storm and Eruption at the same time, because Leaf Storm is in that situation. Leaf Storm becomes, I don't want to say fodder damage, but it becomes like side damage, because Eruption, I think after a certain point, of course, Leaf Storm is stronger than Eruption, but Eruption stays so strong for so long that it really wears on a team if it's able to be spammed. And Team Not Skull did a really good job of preventing that, just lowering that attack, getting that damage off, and just making sure Typhlosion had no room to breathe.
Yeah, because again, once the Typhlosion was gone, once just the main threats to Celesteela were gone, they did at that point won the game, because I did not see any way of Team Jamie taking down that Celesteela whatsoever. And even in the end, you saw that Mamoswine taking that Aura Sphere hit from the Mega Blastoise set like it was
Full
nothing.
best Mamoswine for the win. And that's the last thing I do want to touch on is you notice this week the trade picks mattered so much.
Yes.
Team Not Scald picked some really good trades. Kiram and Mammal Swine, those are some really good trade picks, especially what they traded in for them. Mega Garchomp wasn't doing anything. We saw that throughout the season. It didn't really get chosen. Malamar didn't do much, although I could argue that it had room to do more than it did, but that's up to the players and the teams.
It came to 2 matches, it died in 2 matches, and it did nothing.
That's just up to strategy and whatnot, and that's not really. But the picks that they exchanged in Kiram and Mammal Swine, and they made this point later in the video towards the end, where it's like the rest of this tournament is pretty weak to ice in some capacity. So these 2 allies here are gonna help them a lot, especially with Kiram being a bit, it's a fairly fast ice type. It's not the slowest thing in the world. Same with Mamo, but Mamo's got a lot of bulk. Kiram has a fair bit of bulk as well, but they share the same kind of attributes in different ways. But it will help them going forward as they face off against Team Cyberbaz this coming week.
Yeah.
And that's about it.
Yeah.
Any closing thoughts?
Just keep on. I just want to see clean games coming up, but that's especially in these playoff matches when we're getting down to the wire. Nothing like Team Drinking Birds beat Team We Disney. I just think the Not Skull game was just really well played in just its entirety. Nothing to take away from We Disney or Drinking Birds. There were just too many moments that could have went one way or another. Not Skull was just the perfect, I guess, the poster boy battle of just a clean game of just two teams just playing it out, and that's
perfect
what I want to see.
Consistency.
And that's just what I want to see for these games coming up. And just really quick, make sure you guys check out the playlists that will be on the MBL channel for all the battles that were played in the past and are going to be coming up in the future. Check out all the analysts as well. All our videos are also on the MBL YouTube channel.
Alright, and that's about it. I'm Mr. Avematic.
And I am the Juancito Marbell.
And we'll see you next week for another one of these breakdowns. Have a good one, everyone.
Bye!